All right, everyone. 12 o'clock sharp. We're going to get started. I think everyone online can hear us well. People still walking in, so we're going to get the lecture started. We have a lot of material to present today. So today's lecture, let me just minimize some things here. All right. Is on a concept called biohacking. We'll define what that is, and longevity science. We'll get into that as well. I'm sure you've heard it through the grapevine or on YouTube or Instagram or on the radio. We'll kind of get into it. This is our 5th lecture, and those are our credentials. And so just speaking on our overall objectives of what this lecture series is about, our intention is to have an academy where folks come to these lectures, they understand the core concepts, and you effectively are training to become a Jedi. And then eventually it becomes a part of your life. It is no longer just a diet or just getting ready for a wedding or the holidays, but it's the way you live and the sustainability and maintaining of your inner peace through wellness. And then lastly, you start imparting it on others, and that's the real cool part. We all work in healthcare in some respect or aspect, so being able to impart this on others is wonderful. I just want to highlight, upcoming topics. Obviously, today we're October. We're going to be talking about those topics. In November, we figured that's the month we eat a lot for Thanksgiving. Way too much. More calories in a day than we should eat the whole month. So we're talking about diet, nutrition's foundations of fasting. We'll talk about it a little bit today, but we'll talk about it again. All of these things are so deep that you could have multi-hour lectures on them. So you'll see a lot of overlap. Sunlight and sleep, again, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. December, just holiday wellness. We're all supposed to be cheery, happy, but, the sun doesn't come out and there's a lot of depression. So seasonal depression, toxic joy, social well-being, and the power of laughter. Just remembering what the holidays are for. January is the mighty mitochondria. So fascinating part of our cell. We'll do a little snippet of it today, but we'll definitely dive deep into why that's becoming so important. And interesting fact for all the mothers in the room, that is passed on down from the mom. So it's a maternal inheritance organelle. And then February, as we're slowly trying to come out of the winter cold, we're going to talk about the power of sunshine. So, quick disclaimer. Yes, we're healthcare providers. Yes, we're in a hospital, but please, any advice we give, take into account your own health, talk to your own healthcare provider, and take into account the risks and benefits associated. I did add a SIF disclaimer there, just in case, because we're talking about some edgy stuff here that most of your docs may or may not be approving on. So this is biohacking. This is kind of the typical stuff you see, supplements, sleep, yoga, sunshine. And so, what is it? Biohacking, by definition, is using scientific knowledge, technology, and self-experimentation. That's the key one, to optimize or hack one's biology for improved health, performance, longevity, or cognitive function. Okay? This is not your conventional way of doing medicine. So it could be anywhere from simple lifestyle tweaks like intermittent fasting, sleep tracking, nootropics, which help with cognitive function, to some more advanced things, such as interventions, genetic editing through CRISPR, implantable devices, personalized nutrition used based on biomarkers. And so the goal is to optimize the human being, to enhance your performance, enhance your mental state. And beyond what's considered normal. A lot of us are like, well, I think I'm healthy. I eat kind of a healthy diet. Until you start biohacking, you're like, I didn't realize there was a version of me like this. And so it's well outside the traditional PCP realm here. This is the line we're going to use a lot. In fact, in our podcast, this is going to be our tagline. It just may not be your general practitioner's cup of tea. Just a fair warning. You go to your general practitioner, like, hey, this guy started already talking about this stuff. You're like, we don't know about that. So what are we going to talk about? Cold water immersion versus sauna, red light therapy, peptides, what are those? Intermittent fasting, morning sunshine, sleep perfection. You have to perfect this thing. High intensity interval training, supplements and nootropics, grounding. Again, might not be your Right now, it might not be your GP's cup of tea, but it will be in the next 5 to 10 years because med schools are starting to talk about it, and whether they like it or not, it's tough. So what's this morning sunshine stuff people keep talking about? Get up in the morning, get outside, get early sunshine in your eyes if you can. So 10 to 30 minutes, whatever you can allot, within an hour or two waking up. Direct, no sunglasses, not through your windshield, not through your windows, direct. It signals your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is part of the brain that suppresses melatonin and boosts cortisol. Cortisol is good for you, depending on the time of day you're talking about. In the mornings, you want your cortisol up, melatonin down. At nighttime, you want melatonin up and cortisol down. We usually have it all jumbled up all over the place. So by having sunshine or a bright light, a certain type of light in your eyes when you wake up, it tells your brain, wake up time, circadian rhythm, reset. So it recalibrates your sleep-wake cycle. You're more alert in the daytime and then deep sleep at nighttime. But it's very important for that morning sunshine. Boosts vitamin D. We've talked about this ad nauseum, how important this is. Vitamin D is one of the most critical aspects of improvement for the human body. Boosts serotonin, mood regulation, focus, reduce anxiety and depression. Very, very powerful. Simple thing to do, very powerful. There's some emerging data on cardiovascular benefits as well. Personally, myself, as a heart patient, this is what I'm really intrigued by. So, most of us get up when it's dark and come to work. We get up in a dark room, we look at our bright phones, we turn on a bright light, brush our teeth, get into a dark car, come into a dark hospital, work in an office without a window. Where are we supposed to get the sunshine, right? So, buy a light. That's what I did for our house. So when we wake up, you come to our bathroom in the morning, it's like, it looks like the sun is in there. It's not that expensive. And expose yourself to this light bulb in the morning for the first 20, 30 minutes while you're getting ready, instead of other lights you have in the room. Turn off the cell phone lights, the other things. Expose yourself to something like this. If you can get fresh sunshine on the weekends, do it. Just remember, Sardarian said, when I wake up, I got to go outside, and just stand by the sun. My neighbors are used to me now. We do it on the weekends. So, that's sunshine. Okay? Very important, very easy to do. Highly recommended. It saves you from all the melatonin and stuff you have to take at nighttime to go to sleep. This is what I actually love. Cold water immersion, also known as cold plunging, aka polar plunging, all that stuff. There's a science behind this. This is not just crazy people jumping in ice water for the sake of being macho. There's a science in Finland. This is an age-old practice. They've done studies. You only need 11 minutes for an entire week. All right? Some of us Armenians, we tend to go a little bit overboard. We do 6, 7 minutes at a time, but that's your personal call. You only need to be 50 to 60 degrees is the water temperature for 11 minutes a week. That's doable. 2 to 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there. Very powerful effects. Studies coming out of Finland. Sample sizes are not huge, but there's a lot more data coming out. When you're in ice water, it doesn't have to be ice. It just has to be cold water. You just have to feel the shock. What I tell people that are starting on this is just fill your tub with some tap water and try and get it. That in and of itself is a shock. You release cold shock proteins, and they're effectively like the centurions helping protect and repair DNA. Why we get sick, why we get cancer, why we die, is because our DNA start unraveling. The telomeres at the end of our DNA start unraveling. And oxidative things happen to our cells that cause the DNA to fall apart. Cold shock proteins basically get in, they're like, something's happening, we have to go clean up all the gunk, and they get inside the DNA and they get rid of all that garbage. Powerful anti-inflammatory. Everyone hears about the impact of inflammation on mental health, on diabetes, on cancer. They did a study, naive cocaine users, someone who's never used cocaine, uses cocaine for the first time, it's a 200 to 210% boost in dopamine. The shock from cold plunging is 250%. So when I tell you it's addictive, it really is, but in a positive way. You want to keep doing it. And there's huge recovery benefits from your body. So a lot of us have sores and aches and joints and stuff like that because we don't stretch. We expose our body to yard work on the weekend, or carrying kids, or the dog tripped us, or we slept crooked. And we don't recover in time, right? Because we come and sit in a seat all day in an office. This is huge for recovery. And immune support and brown fat genesis. So brown fats are healthy fats. So you actually, your body fat percentage can drop if you do this pretty diligently. This is what I love the most about it. Cognitive health and clarity. I tell my wife when I'm not sometimes rarely in a good mood, I'll get in there and within 90 seconds, I do it with Leo's a lot as well. You do feel like almost like an exorcism, like something left your body. It's pretty cool, not to be too dramatic about it, but it does truly work. I highly, highly recommend this. This is probably one of the most impactful personal health things I've done easily in my entire life. So diabetes, it's a massive, massive improvement on insulin receptor sensitivity. So as we eat stuff over our life, a little candy here, a little candy there, a little soda here, a little ice cream there, our insulin receptors are just beaten up. And then lo and behold, you're pre-diabetic, and then you're a little diabetic, and then you're diabetic. This actually can reverse that entire process because those cold shock proteins absolutely go into hyperspeed to fix everything. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because my colleague's going to talk about this. Yes.
Is the cold specific to the immersion? Is it the temperature of the skin?
Yes.
Cold shower work the same?
Cold shower can work the same. I find cold showers more difficult to tolerate because of the moving water and the impact. So I don't like cold showers. Most people will tell you cold showers are harder to do. Sitting in still water at cold temperature and breathing slowly is much more intense. The studies have all been done on sitting in immersed water. And the reason why cold water versus cold air outside is the conductivity of water is better than air. So you get the core temperature to drop much faster sitting in water than going and sitting outside and freezing. Yes.
Are these studies mostly done on men, or is there an even split with men and women with hormone regulations in that as well?
Yeah, it's a little bit more it's a little bit more favored towards men. The group study is not that big. However, if you were to do a sample analysis of population of Finland, the equal amount of females and males fed. I have yet to see any negative outcomes reported of females cold plunging. In fact, the anecdotal information is if you have arrhythmias, don't get in there. I've got hardly arrhythmias. I get into a cold plunge down to 34 degrees. It's helped. So there's a lot of anecdotal advice out there. Oh, women shouldn't be in, or women of a certain age. I will tell you from the research I've done, it can basically be beneficial for almost anyone, unless you have bradycardic disease and the vagal effect of cold water may braid you down too far. That's the only caveat I will tell you. But otherwise, if you're a woman of this age, that I have not seen evidence in that. So I still highly recommend it. Heat exposure, similar concept. I'll let Chris talk about this, but also gaining a lot of favoritism. The only thing I want to mention is the goal is to be safely uncomfortable. I keep hearing, well, I don't like cold water. I'm like, well, you're not supposed to like it. The whole key is to be uncomfortable, to be shocked. When your body is in it, comfort is I like the saying, comfort is the #1 enemy of progress. Comfort is also the #1 enemy of health. When your body's comfortable, the defense mechanism shut down. That's why we have so many autoimmune diseases in this country. We live too comfortably. We've got food, we've got comfort, we've got heat, all that stuff. Red light therapy. This works. So it's also known as low-level laser therapy or biomodulation. The key is if you're going to buy a unit, which actually is not that expensive, you can buy them from Amazon, small units, you need it to be 630 to 850 nanometers. And it stimulates ATP production in the mitochondria without heat damage. So red light is very different than your typical sunlight outside. 20, 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. I usually do this much amount. Skin health and anti-aging, collagen, elastin improvement. Your wrinkles start to go away. Your skin complexion changes. Also very popular for inflammation and wound healing. I'll give you a little story. My son Sebastian, 15, soccer player, plays soccer. If he could play any more soccer, he would. That's all he does. 2 years ago, his foot swelled up the size of an elephant. Took him to Hopkins. He has rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile. I'm like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. Put him on methotrexate. Kind of got better. Then started coming back. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with the medicine 2.0. Cold plunge, red light. I kid you not, within a month it's gone. Hasn't come back anymore. So direct red light to that foot and then ice plunging. Which, by the way, conventional medicine will tell you cold water for arthritis is the worst thing you do. It works. Pain and recovery, very powerful. Mood regulation. You shine that light in your face, you suddenly feel better. There's a huge oxytocin serotonin impact. So you can go to places where they have these big machines, $200,000, $300,000 machines, and you get inside it's like a sunning bed. It's nice if you can afford it, but you can buy these little units for like $150 at home. That's what we have. I just put it on the desk and I just sit in front. And it looks like you're one of those chickens and like you're all red. But it's really easy to do. You can do it every night. Sit there, listen to a podcast, listen to music for 10, 20 minutes. It's really good. I do it mostly face and upper body. Any questions on red light? I'm kind of flying through these. We'll do more of these lectures on different topics. Yes.
You mentioned the red light, and I was looking at the wavelengths.
Yes.
Is that just above infrared,
Yes.
not getting heat in addition to?
Correct. You'll feel a little bit of heat from it, but you don't burn because like I'll sit basically this close to the screen for 20 minutes and you don't have any, you'll feel a little bit of the heat, but you don't have any burning from it. And it's because of the wavelength, it basically bypasses the skin and gets intracellular to stimulate the ATP and the mitochondria. Great question. Who's heard of peptides? It's kind of a new, yeah. So they're just short chain amino acids for anyone who remember their chemistry and biology classes. They're signaling molecules. They tell your body to activate or deactivate. GLP-1s are peptides, right? So those are the metabolic ones, those Ozempics and all the stuff. There's also growth hormone inducing and anti-aging things like Samorelin and CJC 1295. You have muscle growth, IGF, recovery, BPC 157, TB 500. A lot of this has been around for a long time, by the way. People think this just cropped up. This has been around since the 90s. This has been really big in the athletic world. A lot of athletic trainers and recovery have been using this stuff. But again, we live in a world where everything has to be scientifically studied, blah, 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 peer reviewed. I've got my opinion about some of that as someone who worked at NIH and published papers and I'm an anesthesiologist. Anecdotal utilization over the years shows that a lot of this stuff is safe. I love the saying that I heard recently. No one's really done a prospective study on parachute safety, right? That's a hard control group to do, right? But no one's saying, I'm not going to use a parachute because I haven't seen a controlled study to say it's safe or not, right? So we use it. Similar with this stuff. And then NAD and thymosin A1, these are all very powerful. I'm not going to go into the details. I just want to tell you that these are all different type of peptides. Very beneficial. Some are oral, some are injection. I will tell you in the next 5 to 10 years, this will become common utilization for everyone. And the common conversation will be like, what NAD protocol do you use? What peptide do you use? It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see. It's unregulated right now, but it has been highly popularized for social media. I think it's going to be the future of personalized medicine, especially AI-driven, once you get your genetic profiles and all that. So this is, I think, my final slide I'm going to hand off. The bottom line for biohacking, medicine, I highly recommend this book. If anyone wants a starter kit on biohacking, Peter Attia is a brilliant, brilliant doctor. He's a Stanford-trained doc that basically did 6 years of surgical oncology training at Johns Hopkins and said, I'm done. I can't help people this way. I'm going to go and do it another way. And he left. And he did consulting, and then he started a company working on reinventing medicine. And I think he has. So he came up with a term called Medicine 3.0. And it's because Medicine 2.0 can't keep up with our personalized needs. I'm patient number one. My heart condition has been absolutely beguiling for me that no one can figure it out, right? Hopkins, Maryland, they've all tried. So I took it upon myself to say, I'm going to try something. I'm going to get into ice water. I'm going to try sauna. I'm going to try supplements. And I've tried as wacko as you can think of, and they work. You know, it's trial and error. And so I think this is key. The studies are being done by the people taking their own health in their hands. Case in point, myself, right? Trial and error isn't working. So we've got a huge population now trying this stuff, right? The case reports will come out for our ED, right? People are drinking methylene blue. Are we getting a lot of methylene blue toxicity? No. Are we getting any renal failure? No. So it's interesting to see how this plays out. Trust but verify. Any of these products you think you want to use, make sure you're getting it from a clean supplier. Got my pharmacy colleagues here. You don't want to be injecting or swallowing things that you don't know where it's coming from because they can have contaminants. But don't fear it. Again, not your GP's cup of tea necessarily. But there's a lot of good stuff out there. I personally and vouch for this. I think it is the future of medicine in many ways. It has to be balanced, but we do need it because I think our healthcare model right now is not addressing a lot of the needs of the population. So other rabbit holes that I'm not going to get into today, but nootropics, which are basically supplements you can take for mental health enhancement. Everyone seen the movie Limitless? He takes a pill and his brain works stuff. These are effectively what these are trying to be. So creatine, 20 milligrams in the morning, 20 milligrams at nighttime. People are not using that. I highly recommend that. Very profound, very little downside. Methylene blue, again, very, very controversial. I can or cannot admit to whether I use it or not, but it's very, very, very effective. And then the rest. Omega-3s, again, the dosage for omega-3 is actually pretty high to get your levels up, 3 to 4 grams a day. And then L-theanine combined with caffeine. Yes, caffeine is healthy for you.
Cheers.
That's my part. 15, 20 minutes in a topic that we can talk for 4 hours. All right.
Fascinating. Thank you, Dr. Sardarian.
That's fine.
So I'm going to be talking about fasting and exercise biohacks today. Just a couple of objectives, define and explain the concepts of intermittent fasting, and some exercise biohacks, not all of them that are out there, specifically focusing on the one exercise biohack that really has probably the most amount of evidence behind it, which is high intensity interval training. Explain the benefits of each, external and metabolic, discuss their benefits through the molecular mechanisms that we're seeing. Whoops. And then identify individuals who can benefit from both, and also talk about those individuals who should not partake, and then also talk about, if you're interested in starting a program, how should you consider it? So, what is an exercise biohack? So it's a technique to really optimize the effects of exercise in just in a very efficient amount of time. These are targeted methods to get better results in whatever outcome you're looking for, whether it's strength or endurance or what have you. And you basically are making variations in your workouts. So you can change your timing, your intensity, whether you decide to fast or not, what the recovery might look like, even changing your environment. So we're going to do a couple of biohacks that are already out there, already established. First one is fasting state. So the hack is to work out before eating to enhance your fat oxidation. So how does that work? Basically, when you're fasting, your insulin levels are lower in the morning, and muscles so you start breaking down fat, and muscles use these fatty acids instead of glycogen and glucose, and that stimulates fat burning pathways, especially in the mitochondria of cells. And keep that in mind. We're going to be talking about mitochondria a lot over the next few months. Lots and lots of benefits to help our mitochondria. Number 2, cold exposure post-training. Well, Dr. Sardarian did a tremendous job talking about cold plunging, and the evidence is there. So, right after your shower, take an ice bath or cold shower. You get vasoconstriction. That reduces muscle soreness and inflammation. Also keeps your metabolic rate elevated too. Blood flow restriction training. I thought this was interesting. So basically, and some physical therapists here in the room might be familiar with this, this is where they're actually performing low load resistance training while you're restricting venous blood flow. So they take basically these bands and just tie them around large exercise muscle groups, and you're restricting the muscle supply in the muscles, and so the muscles are working harder. That in turn stimulates growth hormone, and that grows the muscle, which I thought was really cool. So you're actually, and you're thinking about, a rehab or injury or rehabilitating people. This is a really cool concept. And then lastly, exercise timing with circadian rhythm. That hack is that morning workouts are better than evening workouts. That's been kind of difficult for me. It's very difficult to drag me out of bed in the morning, so even to expose myself to the sun. But it is it's definitely out there. And the whole mechanism is that you have an internal body clock. Your melatonin is going up and down, and this basically resets your body clock to allow for earlier sleep and allow you to get up in the morning. So you have lower cortisol levels throughout the day, and your sleep quality is improved. So moving on to the ultimate exercise biohack per the evidence, which is high intensity interval training. So the hack is really, and I'm sure many people are familiar with this, you're basically alternating between short bursts of very intense exercise and brief periods of rest or low intensity. So an example would be like walking for 90 seconds and then sprinting for 30 seconds, and then just doing that, alternating back and forth for up to 10 to 30 minutes. What are the mechanisms for this? So basically you are using anaerobic and aerobic respiration. So your metabolism is basically very high at that time. You're driving a very high metabolism. These high intensity periods help your heart through increasing your stroke volume, and you're using oxygen better. Your body's using oxygen better because you're going back and forth between high demand and low demand. So the body just kind of gets used to using oxygen better. You're producing more mitochondria in your cells, and when that happens, guess what? You get more energy per cell, so your muscles are able to work more effectively. You are recruiting more muscle fibers, and when more muscle fibers are working together, you're able to do more work, so therefore your performance improves. And then lastly, has anybody been very sore from a workout the next day, especially? So that's lactic acid in your muscles, right? So it takes a long time for that to clear, especially if you're a novice. So HIIT training actually helps clear your lactic acid more effectively. Yeah. Ultimately, evidence shows that the HIIT training helps dramatically improve your VO2 max. So what is the VO2 max? It is your best measure of cardiovascular fitness and aerobic endurance. It's the maximum amount of oxygen that the body can use during intense exercise. And we talked about the fact that the body is now using the oxygen much more efficiently. So it's a measure of how well the heart and the muscles and the lungs are all working together. The heart is basically pumping with increased stroke volumes. You've got more mitochondria growing in your cells. You're getting BDNF produced. And if you remember back to my exercise lecture, that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Excellent. It's a wonderful chemical that basically helps with neuroplasticity, and it helps regulate mood. And remember, with neuroplasticity, that's basically helping your neurons grow. So yeah.
I didn't know if you were taking questions yet or not, but I
We can.
remember. I'm listening to all this, and to me, it makes the underlying assumption that your heart is healthy. What if you have a person that has like AFib or has a heart condition?
Absolutely.
Don't recommend this type of training.
And where that is, I'm going to be getting to that. You're absolutely right. So that, like we talked about at the very beginning.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Like we talked about at the very beginning of this lecture, a lot of these recommendations, talk to your provider, see if this is appropriate for you. Because yes, certain cardiac medical conditions, this would not be a good idea. So yes, you have to be very aware of what's going on with you, what your medical conditions are, and really find out if it's appropriate for you.
With that being said, if you try this exercise, you may discover that you have an underlying condition, right? So staying away from strenuous exercise to avoid a cardiac event is just masking. So it's a balancing act. Right? Yeah.
And that example of walking for 90 seconds and sprinting for 30, that's just an example. You just want to get it to 50% in the beginning, 50% of your peak. So if you can only walk so far or so quickly, basically a hit attempt would be 50% of that. Just basically a faster pace walk now, right? So it doesn't have to be sprinting. You're also increasing red blood cells via the EPO pathway, which is a pathway that the body uses to produce more red blood cells. So therefore, with HIIT training, you are dramatically improving or reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease and increasing your longevity, which is one of the goals of what we're trying to do. So how do you start a HIIT program? Again, focus on low intensity, short intervals. So for example, if you're going to do a 20-minute workout, do a 5-minute warm-up, do a 30-second high intensity, whatever it is, right? Whatever you want to do. For example, 50% of your peak, whatever your peak is. And again, that's all going to be customized to you. And then after that, do 90 seconds of low intensity and just go back and forth and repeat that for about 8 rounds and then 5 minutes of a cool down. Okay? Again, it's all subjective. It's all what you want to do, what feels right for you. So back to your question, what are safety concerns? So the greater intensity means greater risk for musculoskeletal injury, so progressive overload is recommended. Cardiac risk, right? So high intensity can definitely create an adverse event in non-diagnosed heart disease. So you have to be very careful, talk with your doctor. Excessive training. So a lot of people go gung-ho and they decide to do training every day. Not recommended. Really want to do it about 2 to 3 times a week. Excuse me. And then you want to avoid it or just be aware if you have uncontrolled hypertension, cardiac or pulmonary disease, even if you have certain orthopedic limitations. You just, you got a bad knee or a bad hip, or you just had surgery, a few months ago. You got to be careful about all that stuff. So again, always talk to your doctors. A recurrent theme here. All right, now we're going to move on to intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? Basically, scheduled periods of little or no caloric intake, alternating with normal eating. So there's a variety of different types of intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, 16 to 8. So that's 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of allowed eating. There's ADF, where you're alternating every other day, 5 to 2, which is normal eating for 5 days, and then low cal for 2 days. So there's a whole bunch of variations that do exist. Whatever you do. Try not to feel like this. So what are the benefits what are the evidence-based medicine of intermittent fasting? Well, weight loss and body composition. So a lot of people do this to try and lose weight. There is data to show that the weight loss is comparable to continuous caloric restriction, but you have to do it correctly. Insulin sensitivity and glucose control, especially with time-restricted eating and alternate day fasting. You get reductions in your triglycerides and your LDL levels. Some trials, they have even showed moderate reductions in blood pressure. And then, of course, what we've been talking about, especially animal trials, some animal trials suggest a reduction in some of these inflammatory pathways, mitochondrial efficiency, and basically reductions in cellular responses associated with aging. I'll talk about that in the next slide here. And then, again, BDNF. So here we go again with the BDNF. So you notice that there's so many different things that you can do to improve your BDNF, and ironically, it's the exercise that helps you develop, neural improvements. So fascinating. So what are the mechanisms of intermittent fasting? So the biggest concept, the biggest thing to grasp is the concept of metabolic switching. Okay. What is metabolic switching? So basically, when you're fasting, your insulin levels are dropping. So when your insulin levels drop, you're basically burning fat, right? And that fat eventually leads to fatty acid or free fatty acid production. And then these free fatty acids are converted to ketone bodies, and ketone bodies are used by the brain and the muscles. Brain still needs glucose, but it still can function a long time with ketone bodies. The low blood sugar also produces or stimulates glucagon production, and the glucagon basically stimulates the liver to break down the glycogen. And after the glycogen is broken down, glucose is produced from other sources as well. So you've got this metabolic switch going on, right? I don't know how to pronounce this word. I think it's autophagy.
Yeah.
So, is that right? Autophagy? Yeah. So autophagy is a fascinating concept. So basically, during periods of intermittent fasting, right, insulin levels, again, are low. So the cells have time to start taking care of themselves, to start cleaning up. And getting back to one of the points that Dr. Sardarian made, this is an opportunity for the cell to do self-repair. And what happens in these long-term conditions like cancer and inflammatory conditions, it all happens because of these chronically damaged DNA, chronically damaged proteins. So in periods of intermittent fasting, you can actually have the cell fix itself, and that's what autophagy is. So a pretty cool concept. And then low insulin also stimulates the sympathetic nervous system as well. When that happens, you're getting releases of epinephrine and norepi, and that is also resulting in fat burning and glycogen burning. So what if you wanted to do intermittent fasting? So here's an example of a 150-pound male. They want to do IF, and they want to do 16 to 8, which is very common and very reasonable. but he wants to maintain his weight, the first thing you want to do is calculate your basal metabolic rate. And if he's moderately active, then look in the moderate activity level under moderate. So his calories per day, kilocalories per day is 30 to 35 kilocalories per kilogram. So you calculate what you need in a day in an 8-hour period to maintain his weight. If he wants to lose weight, then you just want to subtract 500 from that, and that should be your new caloric intake per day. The key, though, is just to be aware that all of those calories need to be consumed in that 8-hour period. How to safely implement it. So obviously, this guy, not too safe. Pragmatic option is the 16 to 8. A lot of people can do it because you basically stop eating at 8 o'clock, right? And then go to bed, wake up the next morning, stay hydrated, but you can skip breakfast and then eat at lunch. A lot of people do that anyway. You're intermittent fasting. Quality consumption is important. So basically focus on protein and micronutrients. A big reason why intermittent fasting fails is because people do compensatory overeating. They've got like, oh my God, I'm in my fasting window now, so keep it coming. Let's belly up to the buffet and go crazy. So, and that's what you want to be aware of. Be careful of that, and then go slow. Disadvantages, as you can imagine, low blood sugar. So if you're on diabetic medications, be aware of that. Be careful. Any kind of eating disorders. Disadvantage or adverse symptoms that can develop from this: dizziness, headaches, irritability, sleep issues, menstrual irregularities, and certain issues for women, which Chris is going to talk about a little bit more. The evidence does vary for weight loss. Some studies, it shows that intermittent fasting is especially very, very effective when sustained. Others show equal efficacy to general caloric restriction, but again, with general caloric restriction, you have to restrict with every meal, whereas intermittent fasting, you don't necessarily have to. Not recommended for pregnancy, eating disorders, the elderly, children, especially type 1 diabetics, and then, of course, certain other health conditions.
How are you defining elderly?
So, I believe, according to medical definitions, if you're senior citizens over 65. So,
Black coffee count?
What's
Is that
that?
still fasting? Black coffee count, or is that still fasting?
I think black coffee is allowed.
It's still fasting because it's not going
There's
to
no
cause
real
the.
caloric.
But nothing in it.
No sugar or cream. No sugar or cream. And it helps you stay hydrated, so it can't be in there. All right, and this is my last slide. So can you combine intermittent fasting and HIIT? And this is my salute to Dr. Sardarian here, movie quote. Yes, you can combine it. Some people do it, but I would recommend it only for basically advanced hackers. I think you can get pretty decent results with just moderate exercise as opposed to doing HIIT. But if you feel like you're up to it, you want to move up to the next level, go for it. Again, be aware of the precautions because that's a lot to ask for your body, especially if you're not used to it. And then, like we've talked about before, and we keep on harping on, just talk with your provider, make sure you get the clear. All right. And on that note, let me pass to my colleague.
Thank you.
Oops, wrong way. Oh, you changed the order. All right. Well, we'll get back to intermittent fasting. Heat therapy. So you heard Dr. Sardarian talk about cold therapy. So we are going to do the juxtaposition to that. We naturally make heat therapy. A lot of times we talk about all of these different interventions and things that we can do, and it feels like it is this like way off crazy thing. We've got to buy all this machinery. We've got to do all this extra stuff. We do it naturally all the time. Physical exercise, obviously you get hot and sweaty. You are increasing your internal body temperature. The sun, we love the sun. Go outside, get sunlight without sunscreen on. I promise it's okay. And then also when we have an illness, right, our body naturally raises its internal temperature to get rid of those toxins. So this is something that we can do very easily without any major intervention or extra supply. I love this slide. I also went out to Colorado this September and did the natural hot springs. If you ever get the chance in your life to do it, it is the most amazing experience ever. Okay. And so again, something we've been doing for millennia, right? We have the Greek baths. We have different types of steam baths. We have sweat huts. Like these are things that we've done as humanity over the course of time. We know that sweating is really good. Is it not going to click now?
Just the top panel.
There we go. Other ways we can induce internal heat. What we eat. We, again, for millennia have used spices to warm and heat. It feels really good, right? When you eat, think about, just imagine eating that piece of ginger, right? You can almost imagine the heat that happens inside. So these are really good things to use when you want to help flush out toxins, right? Your grandmother knew it. Whose grandma made like ginger and honey hot tea for them, right? Yeah, it makes you feel good. And you're just warming the body naturally, helping to get rid of toxins. And we'll get to the science behind it. I just want to make this point that it is very easy for us to do on an everyday basis without a lot of extra. This is not my house, but I do have this in my house, and it is by far the best purchase I've ever made. So when you can't get out in front of the sun, when you can't get to the steam bath, it's a sauna. This is the infrared sauna. It's all three, near, mid, and far. It is emitting that heat out. It also has the red light panels that we talked about earlier. It is fantastic. You are flushing out toxins. You are sweating. You can make your own programs. I have the Chris program that's 45 minutes at 150 degrees with everything on. It's amazing. My oldest daughter has sensory processing disorder, and this is her favorite place to sit. And she sits in here, and all of that energy and all of those inputs that have just worn her all day, she sits in here and she is a whole new person again. She calls it her box, and this is her spot. So amazing, amazing things that come out of this. All right, so what's the science behind this? Why are we actually doing it? You get increased respiratory capacity, increased APT synthesis. That's your energy, right? We're going to talk more about the mitochondria. Gene expression is improved. All of those health benefits that we've talked about in this lecture and all previous lectures come out of heat therapy. The mitochondria, the mighty powerhouse of the cell. So we know that everything that happens in the body is driven by the function of the mitochondria. So if you have poor mitochondrial function, you have things that manifest like weakness and pain, overall exhaustion, poor stamina. You feel easily fatigued. You hit that 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you got to go to Starbucks, right? Poor cognitive function. Inability to regulate body temperature. Are you really hot all the time? Are you having those hot flashes? Are you really cold all the time? And gut microbiome. That's my favorite topic. All right, so heat helps to reduce inflammation. It helps to reduce pain. It helps to reduce adipose tissue. That big concentration of tissue around the midsection really helps to reduce that. Reduction in blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes extremes. So those hard to control highs and lows. You'll have improved cellular turnover and metabolic function, improved cognitive function, cardiovascular function, improved sleep. I love to do this at night. It feels so good. Remember, what does it feel like to sit outside in the summertime before it's like 100 and something here in Maryland, but like late spring, when you feel the sun on you, what does it feel like? You got this natural calm. Same thing. And then improved immune function. We know our bodies naturally do it, right? It heats up to get rid of the toxins. You heat internally and you get rid of those toxins. Heat shock proteins. We talked about cold shock proteins. This is the heat side. So you're getting cellular repair, especially when there is damage due to stress. This is like the oxidative stress through metabolic functions. It prevents protein aggregation linked to all sorts of neurodegenerative diseases, most commonly Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It helps to control cell death, so that apoptosis, that's in response to stress. So it can actually help you to become more resistant to the stress that you encounter every day, whether that's environmental stress or perceived stress. It can actually help you to become more resistant and prevent cellular damage. You get those neurodegenerative protective functions, a reduced risk in cancer. We know that cancer cells are just dysfunctional cells, right, that continue to proliferate. So you can repair those cells. It helps to, I don't know if I feel like it was in here somewhere, but oh yeah, prevents protein misfolding. So when you get those weird folds in the proteins, that's where all of that misfunction through the mitochondria actually happens. And so it helps to prevent that. That's a big cancer risk prevention. Cardiovascular disease is improved. Again, you're reducing all that inflammatory load. That's a really big help reduce cardiovascular disease. Anti-aging. So you are maintaining good cellular health. You are helping to maintain, we talked about the length of your telomeres is directly linked to longevity, the quality of your life. Right here is how we do it. Improved signs of aging, right? You're getting all that toxic oxidative waste out. Your skin is going to look better. You're going to have better muscle tone. You're going to feel like just getting up and doing something else, which is then going to exaggerate all of those other things. So how to use the sauna. So I'm going to use the sauna. We have two different kinds of saunas that most people are familiar with. You have like the hot stone, steamy kind of sauna. That's your traditional sauna. You're at 170 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit in there for about 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. Fantastic. Infrared sauna, that's the one I had a picture of. There you're at, for most people to start, 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. I can tell you that as you continue to do it, just like cold plunge, it's addictive. And so, like I said, my own personalized, on the thing I can personalize my thing, I'm at like 150 degrees for 45 minutes, and it is fantastic. Why is this important? If you maintain a healthy lifestyle, you drastically reduce all-cause mortality across the board. There are numerous studies out there that show the positive association between a healthy lifestyle and the positive impact on all biological markers and mitochondrial function. So the Blue Zone study, I don't know if anybody's heard of that one, but basically they looked at several different populations all around the world, and they said these populations are living well into their hundreds. So what are they doing? And what they found is it's healthy diet, regular physical activity, a positive connection to their social groups, which is something we talked about in the last lecture, as well as having a purpose outside of themselves. So those two things are one of the biggest contributors to a reduction in stress, which then affects all of this other stuff.
Chris?
Yes.
Just to let you know, Netflix has an amazing 3 or 4 part series on the so if you're invited on that, that's fantastic.
Thank you. And so why is this important in healthcare? So we can't pour from an empty cup. If we are running ragged, you're never going to be able to give to your patients, your staff, your colleagues, what they need, because you don't even have enough to give to yourself. So you have improved overall outlook, a reduction in sick days, a reduction in the feeling of burnout, anxiety, depression, and work-related injuries, right? All those things that we talked about, all those, the muscle function, the cognitive function, reduction in anxiety and depression, all of that is how you fill your own cup. And then also, we can teach our patients to do this. It's simple, low-cost, easy things, right? You can get out and get some sunlight. Everybody has the opportunity at some point in every single day to step outside their front door for a couple of minutes. If you can't get outside, can your caregiver help you get outside? Can you take your wheelchair outside for a couple of minutes? Somehow, some way, every day, a little bit of sun. use herbs when you're cooking. My kitchen counter is full of like, we have dried things, we have fresh things, we have mix of things we made. Throw these herbs in, they're really good for you. We have used them in humanity forever for a reason. And then maintain physical movement. Make physical movement a part of your everyday. It can be really simple. When I talk to patients, I tell them, when you're sitting on the sofa, it's commercial time, you're raising your knees up as high as you can get them, right? You've engaged that entire core. Maybe you're just tapping your feet, right? Your calf is your second heart, right? Physical movement in some way is super important. So those are things we can also give out to our patients. It don't cost anything. Now we're back to intermittent fasting. It's funny. You can laugh. It's okay. It's meant to be funny. So someone asked earlier about considerations for women with some of these things. So sometimes there are different considerations depending on your gender or your age or your other health conditions. And intermittent fasting for women is different than for men. Particularly in childbearing age, right? You have those menstrual cycles that are very hormone dependent. Intermittent fasting, there are several considerations that we'll talk about. If you are perimenopausal, postmenopausal, and or hysterectomy, still utilizing these cycles is really helpful because your body is still going to go through a general monthly cycle without actually having an official menstrual cycle. So that's where we're going with this. So progesterone generally likes sugar, right? We have those days where like, if you ever really feel like you just want to make my day a warm ooey gooey brownie on any given day, honestly, that's my but particularly when progesterone is high, right? We want sugar. Generally speaking, you want to aim for about 100 to 150 grams of net carbs, 50 or more grams of protein, and healthy fats. The carbs that we want, even though I love an ooey gooey brownie, we really want them from fruits and veggies. So you're looking at your root vegetables, those cruciferous veggies, and fruits that are a little bit more starchy, right? They have a higher sugar content naturally. So those are the days, and we'll go through kind of cycle in a couple slides, but those are the days when progesterone is higher, we're going to feed it like this. Estrogen. You guys can laugh. It's okay. So it likes a low carb load. It functions well in really protein rich environments, right? So this is when you are on your game, you are ready to strike and you are ready to go. So on these days, we're aiming for about 50 grams of net carbs, 75 or higher grams of protein. If you are an active person and or trying to maintain your muscle mass, which we all should be doing, you want a 1-to-1 on your protein to body mass. So this is lean body mass. You want 1 gram of protein for every 1 pound of lean body mass. And about 60% of your food's coming from good fats. As women in particular, we are really afraid of eating fat. Fat is good for you. You need fat. Eat the healthy fat. So this is coming from things like nuts, legumes, your lower glycemic index fruits and veggies. Did you take out the other one?
Took out those.
Okay. Well, anyways, so as you move through, the whole point of this is as you move through the different stages of your cycle, estrogen and progesterone are going to vary. You want to vary your fast. You can do the fasting in whichever variation you want, whether it's 16 or 8. I like varied intermittent fasting so that one day you're doing 15 hours, one day you're doing 18, one day you're doing 12. So you're kind of within a general window, but you're still kind of varying it. And you just want to be conscious of that as you are moving through your fasting cycle. When you're fasting, you're still drinking. Drink water, electrolyte water, a little salt and lemon goes a long way. Anything that is not going to cause a spike of your blood sugar. So if you get an insulin response, then you've broken your fast. All right.
Want to leave a few minutes then, thank you, Chris. So I like the saying from Steve Jobs because if we all knew we were going to live forever, this lecture would be of no value. Truly, I'm hoping these lectures are making an impact to seize the day on your own health. I've always tell the story of, watching my grandfather at an older age kind of, he died at home with us, and it was a week-long time to spend with him. It was really revealing for me to watch a man kind of go through his life in front of his eyes. And so I'm half his age now. And so carpe diem, take advantage of it now while you still have the opportunity to do it. And even if you're in your 70s or 80s, if you're doing well, make the changes now. And I love this saying, we have 2 lives. And the second begins when we realize we only have one. So very much appreciate you guys coming. We have about 5 minutes of questions and thoughts and feedback. This was definitely more of I want to say a bit of a controversial topic based, but we did want to introduce it to the crowd because it is out there. Medicine 3.0 is coming. And so as you potentially get new general practitioners and PCPs or endocrinologists that you meet, especially, I'm not being ageist, but maybe on a younger age, they're going to start talking about peptides, and they're going to start talking about intermittent and HIT therapy. And they're going to use terms you're like, what are you talking about? Telomeres, by the way, are the end zipper ties of the DNA. And once the telomeres start to fall apart, the DNA falls apart. So thoughts, questions? Yes.
My question is, if you'd like to start this particular biohacking lifestyle, is it better to enter gradually or just go for it?
So scientific method answer is you never want to add too many variables because then you don't know what's working, right? So gradual for sure, individual variable changes. So if you're intrigued by a dietary change, right? If you want to add kombucha to your diet, just start with that, see how you're tolerating it. If you want to start on supplements, start with one. Again, always the disclaimer is make sure you're getting it from a clean vendor. Start it, see how your body tolerates it. The other thing I will say is if you're going to get into the biohacking realm, get some baseline labs. It's very important to know where you're starting from, right? If you have kidney issues, if you have blood cell issues, if you have, AFib or whatever it may be, cholesterol, get those lab values. We talk about hormone levels, right? You want to make sure you're chasing the hormone in the right direction, right? And so it's very important to get some baseline, and that's where your PCP is very important in that, and to guide it. Yes.
With the heat therapy and the cold therapy, do you find that that's maybe to fix them up through the week? Because like I have myself, but I can't, and I'm always cold all the time. So I'm thinking of this cold plunge, but I don't know how I can tolerate it because I'm old.
Yeah.
But if I were, would you say there's benefits from both things? Would you alternate it?
Yeah, again, you want to feel a little bit of the shock from the therapy. If you do it all the time, you're going to get comfortable with it. And that comfort is your enemy. I know we're all been trained to become comfortable. So doing it intermittently is very important. And I will say with cold plunging, I don't want people to think of ice. Just fill a tub up with tap water and try that. If you can tolerate that, add a little bit of ice, get a little thermometer. And if you can get into like 60 degrees or 65 degrees, just do that for a little while. That alone is going to be hugely beneficial. And then you might get to a point where you're really enjoying it enough where you're like, I'm going to buy a chiller device that cools the body and keeps the cool water cold all the time. Yep, Carlo?
I get a shock at 67.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure I would get a shock.
yeah. So, and it helps. If I go in sore, I come out, I'm not sore. So, it doesn't.
So would you say that doing, like, so if I get in the hot tub a couple days a week, then doing the 50-60 tap water alternated would be better?
I would say so.
I think there is even some studies that
Yeah.
they talk doing one and then the other.
Yeah.
So going from that warm, and it's better warm to cold than cold to warm.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the hot tub, you can go directly from there, even just a cold
shower.
So I
Shocking your system.
Yes, it's all about the shock.
and that's it. So I can't cheat the system that much. I'll give a cold shower on the rinse cycle.
Right.
Like you gotta get home, you gotta melt so bad, all the things, right? So you can't cheat that much. And so you just turn it down to as cold as you can stand it. I have a thermometer.
Yeah.
Actually, here, but as cold as you can stand it, and then rinse off everything. And so you're gonna get like, for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, that really cold. Maybe when you first turn the shower on, coming out of the hot tub. just standing there, you're getting at that.
Yeah, but you definitely don't want to get into cold and then come out and suddenly stand under hot water. Like, that's not the intent. You want your body to naturally reheat itself.
Warm to cold.
Always warm to cold. Yep.
Question. Have any of the studies or research shown what a good age is to start these habits? Because I think of them as habits. But for children, like I'm talking age wise, like
So,
you mentioned your older daughter, you mentioned your 15-year-old.
Yeah.
When to really start to introduce these habits?
I'm sure in the next few years because there's so many studies being done now that it'll probably come. But here's my caveat with studies. Studies are wonderful from an epidemiologic population health standpoint, right? They don't necessarily speak to your child or my child. So I will say my kids, my boys are soccer players. That's all they plunge. And if I turn the machine off for one day, they're absolutely upset. They're teenagers, 12 to 15 years old. My younger daughters, they're not interested in it, but I think it's healthy over the age of 8 is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Typically in the world of pediatrics, we say 8 and older is really when you start getting better skin development. Not to say that a 5-year-old can't get into, because they tolerate it better.
Yeah.
But their body is at that age relatively healthy. But you can get them into the routine where they just get into some cold water. It doesn't have to be ice water.
Right.
It's just different thresholds. And then for older age, again, if you're, my grandmother's in her 80s and she's had a stroke, I don't think I would put her in cold water, right? I would, if the pool was a little bit cold, I'd have her come in a little bit and come out. So it's very specific. You got to kind of know who your child is. Yeah.
And just the biohacking in general, right?
Yeah.
These are
All-
habits that you
yes.
just start creating.
Absolutely. Start thinking all of this all the time.
That's the big thing. Focus on sustainability.
Yeah.
What's going to fit into your lifestyle? If there's something like if you absolutely test anything cold, maybe cold plunging is not, something that you want to start off with right away. So some of the other biohacks that
You wanna keep it in there?
just gradually increase it and then see what works for you.
That's what I was going to say, the different about hacking. So my youngest is 6 and she will sit and meditate, and it's the cutest thing. She's got a little rock out down by the bathroom, and she literally sits there and meditates. And like nobody ever introduced, she does it. But my son is 10, he plays football, and after football, he takes a shower and he gets in the sauna. My middle daughter's 12. She dances every day of the week for hours on end. Same thing, she gets home showers and sits in the sauna. My older daughter's 15, and she loves the sauna. And so, and they're also doing these other hacks. We have, methylated multivitamins that they take, so we're getting good gut microbiomes going through because they are also kids and they'll have, all the birthday cake and chocolate brownies that you can make. I think like everybody's here said, but really know your kid, but also there's so many different things that you can incorporate into your lifestyle that are biohacking.
Yeah. Find a good source of truth and just do a little bit. And then you could, by the way, everyone on there as well, you can reach out to us directly if there's ever a question about a certain topic. We do these lectures kind of really quick, but we'll happy, if we don't know about it, we can do the research with you and help you out because there is a lot being thrown out there, especially if you're like using YouTube as a source. A lot of people claim they know stuff, but there are some sources of truth out there that are very reliable. Peter Attia being one, Gary Brecka being another one. So there's a lot of people out there that have shown that they're evidence-based people, and that's what's important. But then you have to be specific to your own.
I just wanted to bring up too, and I know you brought up his book,
Yeah.
his podcast, they're wonderful.
His podcasts are wonderful.
So if you're looking for specific information, you can go in
Yeah.
and kind of search through his different podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts are very, Andrew Huberman's a big one, Peter Attia, Gary Brecka. There's a lot of good people out there. It's fun. It's just fun. You're learning stuff on your own. It's a new age of medicine. And hopefully you have a primary care provider that you can complement with and then educate them because none of this was taught in med school, at least when I was in med school.
Is there some way that you could get printouts or we could get printouts of your slideshow to kind
We could probably do that. Yeah, we can probably do that. There is a YouTube page with this video on it, and we're going to be recording a podcast probably end of this week or next week. But yes, reach out to, just let me know and we'll try and get a printout to you.
Thank you.
Yep, of course. All right, folks, thank you so much. Again, reach out to us. We'll see you guys next month. Thanks everyone online.
Okay, all right. For some reason when I